Welcome to this month's Insights interview from the Payments Association. I'm Tony Craddock. I'm the Director General of the Payments Association, and today I'm joined by a friend of mine who I've known and respected for over a decade. He's someone with that rare combination of modesty and achievement as a CEO of one of the newest banks in Europe and leader of a next-generation fintech group with a market valuation of over $1 billion. He's as a chair of Europe's only community organization covering the whole continent with a young family who is very soon to be moving to the US. I've been looking forward to hearing his insights for some time. And so please welcome someone who supported our community for many years, the CEO and founder of Banking Circle Group, Anders Cour.
Thank you very much, Tony. And thank you for letting me join you today.
It's good to have you here. Sometimes the backdrop in these interviews is very formal and office-like, but you're kind of literally almost in transit. I caught you just before you go on.
Yeah, I think we're relocating to New York very soon. So we've got our garage in the background. So the business right now is being partly managed from the garage. So a real startup, although now a couple of years old.
Yes, and I know you have a startup mentality which pervades everything you do. So look, at the beginning of every Insights interview, I always ask my VIP guest how they stay motivated, how they go the extra mile when they're faced with challenging jobs and balancing home and work lives. And, you've done what so many fintech entrepreneurs aspire to, strive for. You've got a unicorn valuation. Those two words. It sounds very easy. But what is it? Now you've achieved so much. What is it that continues to drive you to go the extra mile?
I think if you look at the business we're running and which we have founded in Banking Circle, we're only just getting started. So I think the motivation here drives it's the journey, and the journey to build and create something new and exciting, and that drives us up every morning, irrespective of how many challenges there are or whether it's a good day. It's the same kind of motivation. Brilliant. And I think that for me that comes back to the time where I quit my day job and basically found that I would rather set up a business and also in 10 years time being two people, but be able to do what I wanted to do and build what I would think would be fun than being in a day-to-day job. And whether it would end up being 2 or 500 or 1,000 didn't really matter at that time.
Brilliant. And so on the journey that you're referring to, what are the guiding principles that are helping you achieve what from your perspective sounds like only just quite a modest milestone because it's simply on the way to the bigger milestone? What are the guiding principles to help you?
That is a good question. If there are some, it's probably that it must be fun. Like not everything can't be fun, but as a general rule, when you get up in the morning, it must be exciting what you're going up to do. And I think the second thing, if I have to point to one, is that we're never satisfied. So like if you achieve something, a milestone or whatever, yes, you can celebrate at least for an hour or something, but then you move on to the next milestone. And that kind of drive, I think, is the combination of it must be fun and always looking towards the next plateau or the next part of the journey.
Yeah, brilliant. But you started the journey. You mentioned that there was a time when you left your last employee role, but even before that, you studied law at the University of Copenhagen. You cut your teeth as an attorney and an M&A lawyer. Even before that, was there anything in your childhood or earlier years that maybe prepared you for the journey that you're traveling?
That's a good question. I think if you look at my childhood, like many other children, very pleasant and school friends. So the only thing I think where I did something that most other kids didn't do was that I played football at quite a high high level. And I think that might have at least been part of creating the spark that like the performance under pressure and actually like to be under pressure and fly with it. That's I think is probably the only thing I can say here with my childhood.
So you were a footballer. Look at this. I didn't know that.
At least as a young player, I played a lot, and yeah, that might have formed part of the performance culture that we also try to have in Bengtsson.
And the sort of competitive spirit as well, that I'm sure is part of it. And what about your mum and dad? Would your parents have predicted? Would they have gone, "Oh, we know young Anders, he's going to become a billionaire one day"? Would you have said that? I mean, was it predictable? Would you say?
I think that they would for sure not have predicted that I would go ahead and run my own business. But I think that being said, I think they would probably have said that I would do something fun. I play a lot of music. I still do. So they would probably have told you I'd become a musician or something.
Oh, so what music do you play?
I play piano and guitar. So
cool. We're going to have to get you doing a little campfire around for one of our community events one of these days.
Absolutely, Tony.
or a bit of country and western when you move over to
whatever works.
It would be great fun. So look, the exciting news, of course, is that you've latest new bank in Europe. You decided to move your family to New York. What are you hoping to achieve there? I mean, that's a big thing for anybody to do. And in my experience, America or US is a very different market to Europe and the UK. And I admire anybody who's taking it on. A few people have done so and then withdrawn. What are you hoping to achieve there?
So I think with our business, we were granted a US banking license last year, and the purpose of me relocating there is partially to be part of opening our business in the US and partially to support the bank in going live. It is for obvious reasons. We are with a US banking license. We can clear dollars on our own, and adding that to our current offering with sterling and euros, Canadian currencies, and Swiss franc is a game changer for a business like ours. So that's one of the reasons that I'm heading to the US, basically to oversee that entire expansion. My co-founder Lars is here in Europe running the European bank, and we thought that was a good way to approach the next part of our journey.
It makes a huge amount of sense. The whole bottleneck around US clearing is something that is inhibiting progress and adding friction at every turn with international payments. It's extraordinary, and yours will give the market a great solution. I think it needs.
Absolutely. This is also why it's a high priority for us to get that one up and running.
So what would you say are the differences? So imagine that you're talking to somebody who doesn't really know a huge amount about the differences between Europe and the US. What couple of things would you say that highlight the differences? And also, what can we learn from the US payments industry?
I think if you take like product wise, I think the big difference is that in Europe, you can, for example, be an issuer or an acquirer without a banking license. You can do that with an AMI license. As a main rule in the US, you must be a bank to do that. So you can work as a PayFac, but you still must be a bank to operate with a BIN sponsorship. If you look at the more like the DNA and the difference here, I think there's one thing I always think about the American market and the way it is. The domestic market is so incredibly huge.
Yes.
And that always, when I look at how the Americans approach things, that in Europe we tend to have a DNA where we are aware of the cultural differences between French market, German market, the market in the United Kingdom, and Denmark, Norway, Sweden. Belgium, Netherlands, the different aspects of the domestic markets.
Mm.
And each domestic market, although of course the UK or Italy, Spain, France, Germany, they're big, they are not anywhere near as big as the US market.
Yeah.
So the way the Americans think about this is like, okay, when they break through and they become very huge very fast because of that domestic market. And that's one of the things I've always admired from them, that they are thinking big when they when they do stuff. And that I think hopefully we can in banking service take advantage of the fact that we now get access to that market.
And you can do the same. What do you think the Europeans can learn? I mean, because we can't do anything about the size of Belgium, for example. It has its own unique preferences around how people like to use money and pay for things. So we can't do anything about that. But are there any things that perhaps we could, through the community, the Payments Association EU, that perhaps we can start to bring some of the lessons back to?
Yeah, and it's a good point, because I actually think we can do something about the size of Belgium or Denmark, where I'm from.
Okay.
That we have to look at it at a bigger picture and say, let's get Denmark up and running, but very, very soon, as soon as we know that the product is adapted and the formula is there, get it out to other countries, to other larger domestic markets. Use the same formula, obviously adjust it and tune it to the market you're in. But if it works on one market, there is a likelihood that a similar market with the adjustments for cultural differences can work. And if I then jump it to the PAEU, because I think that's exactly what we're trying to do here: build a community based on collaboration across the entire European Union. Whether you're in Belgium or you're in Denmark or you're in Italy, that we get one voice and one business club that can gather everyone and ensure that we work together in collaborating to increase the pool for everyone.
And through that shift in attitude and doing practical collaborative initiatives, you suddenly move your market from 15 to 350 or 450 million. And that mindset, it is a mindset change, isn't it?
It is, indeed.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, very good. So look, that's great, and I'm upbeat and excited about that to be sure. I'm sure you'll do very well in the US. Let's move on. Look, can we talk about your perspective on the industry at a macro level, just briefly, because I think we're certainly moving into a different stage, the post-pandemic period. I suppose it's very different to what people thought. I think they thought there'd be a sort of a good boom coming out of it. But we've had the Russian conflict. We've got increasing interest rates, certainly inflation, no growth, and then challenges around fundraising and everything else as well. And a lot of people from the outside are going, "Oh, I think I'm just going to sit back and perhaps not jump in with my investment, or maybe not jump in with my new product release because I'm going to wait and see." And it certainly seems to be a global phenomenon, not just a European one. But what are your predictions for the next 3 years for payments in particular, and how do you think we can prepare for it?
I think you divide it into two levels. You can have the trends that we have been working for all of us in this industry over the last couple of years. The growth within the card payment space, the even further growth within the account-to-account payment space, open banking, request to pay, all the I think new innovations over the last 10, 15 years that are really benefiting consumers and corporates. That trend I think we'd see continuing. Where we've seen a difference, as you alluded to here, is on the macro level, that we're definitely getting into a different environment. And I think for all businesses need to adapt to that environment. While if you look back again, the last 10 years, it's been a lot of growth over anything and for any price, where growth is always important. But I think what you'd see over the next couple of years is more profitable growth. So you come in to see businesses that has profitable growth, has a sustainable business model, can have high unit economics. In my view, they would still be able to fundraise. They would still be able to do well.
But isn't that healthy in a way? I mean, must say, between you and me, I've always, in fact, no, but not even just between you and me, I've actually declared quite publicly, and in a way that's not been very popular, that I believe an organisation that doesn't use the P word, profit, as the ultimate focus, should really be concerned about what happens if circumstances change. And this is exactly what's happening with an awful lot of fintechs that have grown through this fire hose of funding, regardless of profit. And I wonder whether it'll clear out some organizations and perhaps provide a healthier backdrop for the industry.
It will. But I think if you look, I'm actually a supporter of like what we've seen for the last 10 years, because what really happens there is that a lot of different business models get tested.
That's true.
And you find out what works, what doesn't, and some businesses that does not maybe create a profit for the first 3-4 years will actually be able to create a whole lot of profit in year 7, 8, 9. So from a society perspective, it's great to have that test and trial or trial and error.
Yes.
And then some businesses will be able to become profitable and some won't. And those that won't will have a hard time, and that's fine, that's business. Yeah. Like that's how business is.
Yes.
And the businesses will be able then to become profitable or adjust their business model and then show profitability. There you'd have long-time sustainable businesses that can contribute to society. So if we hadn't had the combination of the deregulation back in 2008 with the first payment service directive, and then this very, very large amounts of liquidity being pushed into the space, then you hadn't seen all the nice and good business models that have been tested. And yes, some of them will work, some of them won't. But it was good for society. A bit similar to what was at the .com 20 to 25 years ago. A lot of good business model thrived, and those that were not very good, they were wiped out, which is fine.
So I philosophically, I agree with you. You have to fund the innovation. Not all of them will succeed. The business models will be proven or not, and then we'll come to the time at which some of these consumer model innovations will be adopted. We also, though, have to remember that as we go into probably might be the next year, 2 years, the way in which the central bankers and the regulators perform support for us and our industry has to evolve to reflect that as well. Now, the banking circle is a benefactor behind Payments Association EU. You've been doing that for 3 years. You're chair of the association. It's growing very fast and growing very well under Thibaut's strong leadership. But what are we saying as a community to the central bankers and the regulators? That I think that reflects the current economic backdrop.
If you think of it from a macro perspective, I hope they'll be able to provide that very, very difficult balance between curbing inflation and enabling growth. So I think that's the overall. If they don't get that right, or if we as a society do not get that one right, then we're all in trouble.
Yes.
I think they'll get it right, but I think that's the first pillar. Second pillar is then on where should we continue to focus the innovation from a regulatory perspective, and there I would still think where we are today, also the trends that I talked about 10-15 minutes ago. These are all the trends with the next. What's the next generation open banking? Is that request to pay UK, FedNow? These kinds of topics. I hope that a potential recession will not stop that innovation, because that's been hugely beneficial for both consumers and corporates over the last couple of years.
People often forget that in a recession, it might be the economy is 5% smaller than it was the year before, but that still means that 95% of the economy is still there and trading. And if so you're doing your bit, aren't you? You're launching your first community event in Madrid on the 14th of October. Do you want to give a little bit of a plug for that, because you've got a great array of speakers, and as a catalyst for the conversation, it's playing an important role.
We have. I would encourage anyone that both if they are in our community now, if they're not, get enrolled. Contact either yourself, Tony, or Thibaut de Barcy, to get enrolled there. But I think what we hope to achieve with our Madrid conference in the fall is that get as many people as possible on the ground, face to face, and have a good. Because what we see here is you can do a lot online. You can during the pandemic, there was a lot of good conferences, but nothing beats the face-to-face collaboration, innovation, informal talks that there is. Yeah. Then hopefully we'll create with a lot of people to provide a real dialogue with our speakers, Jose Luis Campa from the EBA and David Birch. And I think the speakers will mingle with the participants because that's part of the Payment Association that it is very, very down to earth in the way we do this because it's a business club. And then obviously taking part of developing the community for everyone that attends there. That's basically it. In some nice environment and as we always have when we have these events, whether they're small or they're large, people having a good time with collaborating with a lot of other incumbents in the same industry, whether they're suppliers or competitors or partners.
Yeah, no, I love a business like this because we enable people to get rewarded at all sorts of levels, and often the level of it being just good fun and a great place to learn is wonderful. So very good, thank you for that. So let's talk about the other. You mentioned open banking and bank-to-bank payments and things, and there is a whole range of new innovations in that area. But there's also this whole wall of innovation around digital currencies, and there's lots of speculation about where that's going to go. What are your thoughts on the relevance of that kind of new era for money for most payments firms, and how soon do you think we'll be expecting these things to make an impact on our day-to-day work?
That is a very, very difficult question because I simply don't have a crystal ball. I think if you look at the nature of digital currencies, I believe they're here to stay conceptually. It makes sense to adopt them in one way or another. There can also be just moving from a fiat-based system that we have today to a complete digital currency setup where any central bank have their own digital currency. That is, I think, that's still far out. That you won't see the next couple of years. No. But a trend where that migration will slowly start, and that could be as could we imagine having the first digital currencies that actually are not in what you would say in testing mode or in sandbox mode, but actually in real life that could subsidize cash, for example. That could be a place to start. And these different initiatives moving from sandbox to real life, I think that'll be interesting to see whether that's in 3 years or in 10 years. Yeah. Because that'll be the first time we would have to see that tested in a small vertical.
So how is Banking Circle working out its interoperability, its connectivity with the non-fiat world? Have you got that in your plans?
We have, and we have actually already launched the ability to settle into to various stablecoins now, so you can settle directly into USDC and others. So we've built all the fiat connections, and what we would like to achieve over time is obviously both be the fiat connection and the bridge between fiat and the digital world.
Brilliant.
And we believe this would be for a long time, fiat and digital currencies will coexist. Many years, and then that's basically the strategic cobweb that we're building.
Brilliant. And you know what? In a way, we still have the old innovation of money being physical cash. That still exists. There's what might be called beyond cash. There's then fiat, and then beyond fiat, there's then digital money, and its programmability and its instant settlement and all these other features and its track and traceability. I think is wonderful. But you're right. I don't think it's going to be one or the other, is it? They're going to coexist.
Great, absolutely.
So look, finally, coming back to you personally, now you somehow have managed to find time to make 3 children. I'm sure you have hopes and aspirations for them. By the way, do you think they will become entrepreneurs like their dad and their mum?
I don't know. I think I hope they will find something that really interests them. I think that has been what has been driving us.
Yes.
That find something that interests you and spend some time on that, devote your energy to that. So most importantly, I think if I look at what I use for myself, like finding the passion. If you have the passion, anything can work for you. Whether you're an entrepreneur with just being yourself, whether you have 1,000 people, or whether you're in a day-to-day job where you are an employee, as long as you have passion, I think that's the most important aspect of it. So I hope they'll find something to do they're passionate about, and if they do that, then I'll be a happy father.
Very good, and they'll be happy too, and I'd be very happy to have a chance to hear your reflections. Thank you so much, Anders. Much appreciated. Every one of these conversations is unique, but this has been particularly rich because I remember back at the prepaid awards, as it was now the Pay 360 awards, way back in, was it 2014? I think when you first met Miranda, and she's now part of your group leadership team. Right. And others, and this is before the organization even existed.
It was actually both Michelle Ruppel and Miranda McLean that I was introduced to during the October 2014 awards ceremony.
Brilliant. So the 2022 awards, I wonder how many people listening to this will meet their future business colleagues at that event. Who knows? But look, might I say, on behalf of the whole community, sharing your insights and being open about your exciting adventure, your achievements, but also your continued ambitions, your thoughts on the US. It's been great to hear that as well, and your recommendations for future people who are going to thrive in this industry. Thank you very much indeed, Anders McCall.